Claridge High sat quietly in the heart of a sleepy little town in Kentucky, where life moved at the pace of an old clock. Every morning, the same yellow school bus pulled up in front of the red brick building, letting out a flood of teenagers still half awake, clutching their coffee cups and whispering about yesterday's homework or weekend football games. Nothing unexpected ever happened here. But that morning, everything changed. Emily Carter stepped off the bus, and the moment her boots touched the pavement, every eye turned toward her. She wasn't wearing jeans or a trendy jacket like the others. She was dressed in full military camouflage, a worn army jacket too large for her slim frame, its sleeves rolled up just enough to reveal her small hands. Her boots, heavy and dust-covered, thudded against the concrete with each step she took across the schoolyard. A strange silence hung in the air before it was shattered by laughter from a group of boys standing near the entrance. Who does she think she is, a soldier? Hey, look, Private Emily reporting for duty. The words were sharp, followed by mocking chuckles and elbow nudges. A few students pointed at her. Some rolled their eyes. But Emily didn't flinch. She walked straight ahead, eyes focused, posture tall, like someone who had learned long ago not to bow her head for anyone. It was dress as you like day. Most students use it as an excuse to show off their style, bright colors, silly hats, and movie-themed costumes. But Emily had chosen something different, something sacred. She was wearing her father's jacket. Sergeant Daniel Carter had served in the U.S. Army. 2 years ago, he went missing during an operation in the mountains of Afghanistan. No body was ever found. No proper funeral. Just a folded flag and a cold, formal sentence from a uniformed officer. We'll continue the search. Emily never believed he was truly gone. In her heart, he was still out there, somewhere, and every morning, she wore his jacket like armor, as if it brought her one step closer to him. That old camo wasn't just fabric. It still smelled faintly of gunpowder and mint, the kind of mint her father used to chew on during long drives. It was worn at the elbows and frayed at the seams, but to Emily, it was priceless, like a piece of him still holding her tight. That morning, she walked across the courtyard, as if marching through memory. Tucked inside her jacket's inner pocket was a photo, faded but dear to her. In it, she was sitting on her father's shoulders, grinning from ear to ear, with the jagged Afghan mountains rising behind them like silent witnesses. Another student, a blonde girl with a perfect smile and too much lip gloss, snickered as Emily passed. What is this, a war movie? You auditioning for Army Barbie? The laughter that followed was loud and cruel, but Emily didn't stop. She didn't even blink. She had grown used to the whispers, the odd glances, the feeling of not belonging. Since her father went missing, people treated her differently. Teachers hesitated when calling her name. Friends drifted away. Adults avoided eye contact, unsure what to say. But she remembered everything. She remembered the nights curled up in her father's lap, listening to his stories about training in the rain. She remembered the worry in her mother's eyes when the phone rang too late at night. She remembered the last look he gave her at the airport, the one that said more than words ever could. Emily was not seeking attention. She wasn't trying to make a statement. She was just holding on to a man she loved, to the values he lived by, and to a promise she made herself. Never forget. Some girls wore jewelry. Emily wore silence. She didn't need to explain why she dressed the way she did. That jacket, heavy with history, spoke for her. And maybe the kids at school didn't understand that. Maybe they never would. But as she walked to the hallway that morning, alone but unshaken, there was a quiet dignity in her steps, one that no laughter could touch. Because sometimes you don't need to raise your voice to be heard. Sometimes just standing tall is enough to tell the world who you are. For weeks, Emily remained quiet. She walked through the school halls with her head held high. But behind that poise was a lonely girl who carried a heavy burden. A memory, a sacrifice, a legacy she wasn't ready to share with those who mocked her. Her camouflage jacket, inherited from her late father, bore the faint scent of old fabric and sunlight. She wore it not to stand out, but to stay close to him. The teasing didn't stop. Whispers followed her in the cafeteria. Notes were taped to her locker. Some students laughed behind her back, calling her private nobody. But Emily never lashed out. She simply clenched her jaw, looked straight ahead, and walked on, just like her dad had taught her. Then came Veterans Day. The school planned a small assembly to honor local servicemen and women. Most students saw it as an excuse to skip class. Some even groaned when told they'd have to sit through it. But Emily showed up early, helping the janitor set up chairs in the gym. She had asked, quietly and without fanfare, for permission to invite someone special. When the time came, the principal stepped to the microphone and began the usual speech. The bleachers were filled with students fidgeting on their phones, barely listening. Then the air changed. A distant thump echoed in the sky, growing louder and closer. Students looked around, confused. Teachers glanced out the windows. And then it came into view. A Black Hawk helicopter cut through the clouds, its blades slicing the air with thunder. Gasps filled the gym. Phones dropped. Every eye was glued to the field outside. The Black Hawk circled once, slow and deliberate, then descended onto a football field with controlled, earth-shaking force. Dust flew. The American flag on its side gleamed in the sunlight. The doors opened. Out stepped a tall, uniformed officer, silver-haired and broad-shouldered, with medals glinting on his chest. He removed his helmet and walked with purpose toward the gym. The principal met him at the door with a stunned expression. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, his voice trembling slightly, "we have a surprise guest." The officer stepped forward and scanned the room. Then his eyes settled on Emily. He saluted, and the entire gym fell silent. "Cadet Emily Keller," he said, his voice clear and strong. "Your father, Captain Nathan Keller, was one of the bravest soldiers I ever had the honor of serving with. Today, I fly this Black Hawk not just to honor him, but to honor you." Emily stood frozen. The crowd turned. The teasing classmates who once mocked her were now silent, eyes wide with disbelief. Then, slowly, the officer walked over and handed her something wrapped in a folded American flag. Inside was a letter from her father, one he had written before his final deployment. It had never been delivered. Emily's hands trembled as she held it to her chest. The gym remained still. There were no more whispers, no more notes, no more laughter, only the sound of one girl's quiet tears, of pride, of loss, and of a weight finally lifted. No one laughed anymore. No one spoke. Even Emily's closest friend didn't dare step forward. The looks they gave her now were not mocking. They were filled with respect and something deeper, shame. That afternoon, during the ceremony, Emily stepped up to the podium. Her hands trembled slightly, but her voice was steady. She held a folded letter, what her father had written before his last deployment. Slowly, she began to read. She spoke of the nights he trained under cold rain, of the homesickness that crept into his bones, and the quiet strength he carried through it all. She told him how he always said, "Doing what's right never needs a cheering crowd. Just courage." The silence in the gym was absolute. Not a cough, not a whisper. Just the sound of her voice, echoing with memories and pride. When she finished, there were tears in more than a few eyes. After that day, no one called her strange. No one mocked her for wearing boots or carry herself like a soldier. The whispers of wannabe or fake faded for good. They started calling her something else. Emily, the daughter of a hero. But the change didn't stop there. 6 students, inspired by her story and her strength, signed up for the school's JROTC program. Some had never even considered it before. One of them said, "If she could stand tall in front of all of us like that, maybe I can too." Even the teachers who used to exchange awkward glances when she walked by in uniform, those very teachers were the ones who later framed a photo of Emily receiving a community medal and hung it in the school's Hall of Honor. Something had shifted that day, not just in how people saw her, but in how they saw courage. Emily didn't set out to be anyone's inspiration. She just wanted to honor her dad. But in doing so, she reminded a whole room, young and old, what real pride, real sacrifice, and real love of country looked like. And long after the gym emptied out, long after the applause ended, her voice still echoed, in hearts, in memories, in the quiet decision of a young girl who dared to wear her father's jacket. No longer just his daughter, but his living legacy. Some outfits are more than just clothing. They are symbols. And some people don't need to speak because their silence already says everything. Never mock someone just because they're different from you. They might be carrying a story far greater than the small world you live in. If the story moved you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more powerful true stories every week.